So this is what they say about it on the Lancashire Telegraph. And said, on the first night you flew in, weren't you on the same flight? Yes. You dropped your stuff and went to the strip. Is that your recollection? No. What happened? My apartment wasn't ready, so I left my stuff in Jay and Brad's apartment. We all went to Brandon's apartment. I have no recollection of going to the strip, but they may have done later. Okay, that's a little bit more thingy. So maybe she didn't go to the strip, but they went. So you didn't visit Ayub and Rocky then? No. So when did you meet them? On the first day of the festival. Did Jay appear to have met them before, or couldn't you tell? I couldn't really tell. We were all just dancing around. I mean, to be honest, one thing I would say is, like, I think for young people like that, they won't be thinking about when they've known them from or whatever. They're just all, there's not questions asked, is there? But I don't know. So then the coroner asked, where did you meet up with Jay on the evening of the 16th? And she said, I was on my own most of the day. I went and met Brandon shortly before the England match and went to the strip to watch it. I hadn't seen Jay or Brad that day, and I don't think Brandon had either. I got in contact with the pair of them. They came down to the strip to watch the football with us, but only stayed for around 20 minutes and left again. I don't know where they went. We got ready for the festival, met back up with Brandon and got in the same taxi to Veronica's and went on to meet Jay and Brad outside Papagayo. When you arrived, did you meet Jay outside or inside? We all met at the door and we went in together. How was Jay behaving at that time? We'd been pre-drinking at the football, so he was visibly intoxicated. But I wouldn't say he's in a state or anything. Again, it's all relative, isn't it, whether you think someone's in a state or not? And the coroner said, is it possible to tell if someone's taken something like cocaine, MDMA, ecstasy, or is there just a general buzz? He was definitely on a buzz. I'd say he'd probably taken something, but he wasn't physically mangled. Now, they'd have all taken it together. Are they really trying to say that they weren't there, that they didn't all do things together, that each one separately went off and took whatever they took or drank whatever they drank or sniffed whatever laughing gas they sniffed, all separately, individually, none of it together? So then the coroner said, I take it mangled is when you're in a state and you can't look after yourself. And Lucy says, yes, mangled. Mangled, yeah. Well, I think we can safely say that Jay was mangled. They were all mangled, weren't they, really? So, seeing that same post, but on the other one, Lucy is now being asked about the events of Sunday, June the 16th, the night before Jay disappeared on the morning of June the 17th. She and Brandon had gone to a bar called Veronica's to watch the England match. Jay and Brad joined them for 20 minutes and then left. The group met up again later, around midnight, and Lucy was asked how drunk Jay was. He was visibly intoxicated, but I wouldn't say he was in a state or anything. He wasn't mangled. I think he probably was mangled, but I think Lucy's got a different idea of mangled to everybody else. What do you think? What do you think? The thing is. Well, say the thing is. But how can there be a criminal investigation? Well, we'll see. I don't know. Hi, Madge. Hi, Karma. Madge, if you're here for therapy, you're not going to find it here, I can tell you. We're all like confused as hell. We're all as confused as hell. They're all saying different things. They're all saying different things. I don't know where this inquest is going to lead to. Just don't know. I mean, yeah, I suppose it's possible because of the drugging implications. That's why it's all so mysterious. I don't know. No, it doesn't necessarily mean, I suppose, that Jay's been murdered. It's just that maybe that's why they're not all telling the truth, because there's other implications. There's other implications, aren't there? So I just don't know. I honestly can say I haven't got a bloody clue. So then she says, according to this one, this is Lancashire Live. You know, I'm flitting in between Lancashire Live and Lancashire Telegraph. They've got slightly different coverage, haven't they? Slightly different way of reporting. So then apparently the group headed to the Energy Festival after the England match. So remember, of course, it was last year, wasn't it? England, the men's team, the English men's team were doing really well in the Euros, weren't they? They should have won. It looked like they were going to win. They got right down to the final, didn't they? So while they were in Tenerife, it was the build-up, so there was a lot of football talk. The group then headed back out to the Energy Festival at Papagayo. At one point, Jay told Lucy he was going to the toilet, but when he hadn't returned after a while, she went to look for him. She says, we all split up to try and find him in the place, but then none of us could find him in there. So at this point, our phones were nearly dead, and he was still not answering his phone. We left to see if we could find him outside. We had a look on the strip. At this point, I thought he'd probably made mates with someone or had found a girl and ventured off. Then he messaged us and said, I'm in Oasis. We couldn't see him. Then he messaged saying he was in Sugar Reef, which is 2 or 3 clubs up, but we couldn't see him in there either. I don't think Brad mentioned this, did he? Okay, so on the Lancashire Telegraph, this is what they say. You then go into the club. Did you stay with Jay? Yeah, we stayed as a 4 for an hour or 2, but it was almost oversold and very busy. I was wanting to leave from quite early on. Around 2 a.m, Jay said he was going to the bar and the toilet. We were on the dance floor downstairs and we said we'd wait there. I messaged him and asked him if he was all right, and he never replied. So I said I was going upstairs to find him. I couldn't see him anywhere, but it was very busy. So I thought he must have gone down and we must have missed each other, as there are 2 different stairs you can go down. So we all split to try and find him, but none of us could find him in there. We left to see if we could find him outside. We had a good look around on the actual strip. He messaged me back on Snapchat saying he was sat on a wall somewhere. Then he said he was on Oasis in the middle of the strip. We couldn't find him there either. He messaged back again saying he was now in Sugar Reef, but there was no sign of him there either. The coroner said to her, you separated from Jay at some point in the early hours of the morning. At 2:40, Jay sends a message to you saying he can't get back into Papagayo because they've got a mark on him. Do you remember that? And she says, I don't think he said that to me. Did you have any knowledge that Jay had been asked to leave? I'm not 100% sure he did, but that was the word between everyone else. Then at 2:48 a.m. he sent a message saying, I'll just come and get you. And he replied, it doesn't matter, I'm on a mission. Do you have a recollection of that? Yes, it's true. Why are you looking for him? I've been to Tenerife a few times, and I wouldn't want any of my mates rolling around on their own. So I wonder what he meant when he said he's on a mission. Did he have a girl that he liked? Sorry, I forgot to share the tab. Did he have a girl that he liked? Is that what he meant by he's on a mission? Or he was trying to steal a watch? Or he was, what's the other thing? He could have been, gone to score some drugs or gone to get something to eat. Well, don't forget, good old Ayub bought him a kebab, didn't he, later? Oh, I don't know anything about two men with hammers. So is anybody, is everybody, I think we all feel the same, just totally confused at the moment. So what did he mean he was on a mission? So is it because he'd seen a girl he liked or a boy he liked? Or, was he trying to score some more drugs or, going to steal a watch? What does he mean by that? Oh, okay. So then she sent him a voice note at 2:48. She messaged Jay saying, I'll come and get you. And a minute later, he sent a message saying, doesn't matter, I'm on a mission. And then at 3:24, Lucy sent Jay a voice note in which she said, where are you and what are you doing? I'm coming to get you. If you're not there this time, I'm going to be effing fuming. Lucy says this was because Jay kept saying he was at various bars, but then he was nowhere to be found when they went to look for him. Strange, isn't it? Lucy has asked why she was so worried about Jay. She says, I've been to Tenerife a few times and I wouldn't want any of my mates wandering around on their own. Boy, girl, anybody. Lucy then found Jay while she and the others were ordering food from Magic Mike's, a takeaway close to the strip. She says, I said to him, where have you been? And he was just laughing his head off. She says that Jay seemed his usual self and didn't come across as frightened or scared or distressed. I forgot to share that. I keep forgetting to swap the tabs over because I'm on these two different ones. So why was she so worried about him? Was it because he was just so off his head? I mean, he is a good friend of hers. They've known each other since school. But I'm not, why is she getting so angry about, why did she, I don't know. Again, it's just very strange, isn't it? Ah. Right, so I'm on the Lancashire Telegraph. Now, let's see. So you send him a voicemail saying, "Where are you? What are you doing? If you're not there this time, I'll be effing fuming." Does that sound like you? Yes. At this point, you're with Brad, and Jay sends a Snapchat image. You recognise where he is, and you go and find him. And Lucy says he sent a photo of Brad. He sent a photo of Brad of where he was and told him not to move. I found him and asked him where he'd been. He said he'd been chilling. I said we'd all been worried about him, but he just found the situation funny. Me and Brandon wanted to go home, and he said there's no way I'm going home. I asked him to wait there, and I went back up to get Brandon and Brad. Me and Brandon got in a taxi. Brad walked down to meet Jay. I went home from there, so I don't know what happened after that. And then the coroner says, you say that when you met Jay, you were trying to encourage him to come home, and you say he was not having any of it. During any part of this conversation, did you get the sensation he was in trouble or distressed? And she says, no, definitely not. He was just enjoying his night as he usually would. Do you know anything about a watch at that time? She says, yes. Quietly. You go home and go back to sleep, is that right? Yes. You say you left your phone on. Why? Jay and Brad were still out, so just in case they needed me. Are you the one people go to when they need help or anything sorting out? Is that fair? Yes. So, Lucy is saying she knew about the watch. Ayub said there was nothing about the watch, and Brad said, ask Brandon. Goodness me. Goodness. So, now we're back on the Lancashire Live. The moment the friend realised Jay was missing, Lucy went to sleep but left her phone on just in case. At 8:30, Brandon calls her and says, how does he know? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, Jay is in the middle of nowhere and only has 1%. Initially, Lucy thought Brandon was joking, but then she could tell in his voice that he wasn't joking. Lucy then tries to call Jay. The call connects before it is then cut off when Jay's phone battery died. Lucy said to Jay, go back to wherever the F you have just come from before it gets boiling. I thought it was her that he rang, say he only had 1%, etc. This is all crap, isn't it? My head is absolutely buzzing. Not in a good way. Not because I've been taking bloody balloons or whatever. My head is just, because I thought what I've always, what they've always said as far as I was concerned. Now I'm thinking, is it me? It wasn't her that he was supposed to have rang and said he only had 1%. And he was in the middle of nowhere and he had no water. Now it turns out it's supposedly Brandon. Now it turns out it's Brandon's phoned Lucy to say this. Well, I'll tell you what, I know how honest to God, my head is just spinning. So how is Debbie feeling? listening to all this. But I'm deleting that comment, Jay. Sorry, don't mention other podcasts on here. But you're right. Yeah, and where is Brandon? Where is Brandon? You know what? Now, really, after all this, because there's so much conflicting information, it's got to be an open verdict, hasn't it? Hasn't it got to be an open verdict? Because they're all contradicting each other, aren't they? I don't know. They're all contradicting each other. In fact, I think they should just abandon this. I don't know. Go back to the beginning, but God can't abandon it again, I suppose. Oh my God. Crikey. So going back to the Lancashire Telegraph, how they put what we've just read. What did Brandon say to you on the call at 8:30 a.m? She says, the call woke me up and he said, you need to ring Jay. He's up a mountain. I thought he was having me on, to be honest. He said he was being serious and I could tell by his voice he wasn't joking. I spoke to him for about 2 minutes, then the phone cut off. And according to the call logs, there's a call at 8:32 a.m. lasting 2 minutes 15 seconds. And then some messages about 3 minutes later reading, go back to wherever the F you've just come from before it gets boiling. There's then another call. Do you have any recollection of what Jay told you in those calls? And Lucy says, I said, what on earth are you doing? What? Right, I called me. I said, what on earth are you doing? Where are you? We were just on a normal night out and he was on the strip. And I woke up to find out he was in the middle of nowhere. He just said he was in the middle of the mountains. I asked him what he could see and he said there was nothing. By this point, I'm panicking because his phone is on 1% and he doesn't know where he is. And he asked if cactuses were poisonous because this is the conversation she had with him, because he needed a drink. And I said, if you don't know where you are, you need to go back to where you came from. So we've got an exact address. Gosh. So, yeah. I'm just looking down the chat, and obviously, hi Laura, Lorna, everyone's got different ideas, which, God, you might, you know what, it's just like with all this conflicting information. I mean, I'm with you, Julie. I still think it was an accident, but I don't understand all these lies. Or are they lies? And they were just all so off their heads, they just don't remember anything properly. They all seem to have a different memory of everything. I just feel sorry for Debbie, especially because she's there trying to make sense of it. Yeah, exactly, Julia. That's just what I was about to say. Imagine having to sit there and listen to all this crap. It's bad enough for us listening to it and thinking, what? Imagine if that was actually your son that they were talking about. Yeah, yeah, it was a funny place for Ayub to stay up there in the mountains. He said, didn't he, when he was being interviewed by that podcaster, um, he said he just found it just something different. But do you know what? I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, it was not a nice place, you know. It was. I know the actual place itself was just very basic, but it was nice views, etc. So you can see a lot. You know, people do stay in those places and they like them. But yeah, Ayub doesn't strike you as a sort of person that would go for the Spanish culture, does he? You know, he doesn't strike you as that. You know, you were. You know, maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't get the feeling that Ayub's going to Spain and want in space stay somewhere traditionally Spanish. He doesn't speak Spanish for a start, so you know, unless I don't know. Yeah, Moonbeam. I see what you're saying. Is that there's something that they're all hiding, but it may not be about, you know, it may not be about Jay's death. Do you know what I mean? If they are running some sort of drug ring, you know, like with Lucy being a runner or all of them maybe that time helping out or whatever. If there is something like that going on, they're obviously not going to want to reveal it. So, but that doesn't mean necessarily that obviously that they murdered Jay, but they may have done. But you know, I still don't think so. But I think something's happened, and now it's brought all this attention. You know, Jay's died in an accident. It's brought all this attention, and they're like panicking because they don't. It's like, oh God, you know, don't want. I mean, you know, a lot of people saying about Lucy maybe being a drug mule and this, that, and the other. I don't know if she is or not. You know, and as a podcaster, really, you shouldn't, you know, that is slander to say that somebody is a drug dealer when you don't know that for sure. So I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to come out and say that. I have no idea if she is. But if she is, um, and if Ayub is, or if any of them are involved in anything like that, yeah, they're not going to want to tell the truth about it. I still think, in my opinion, I think that's the reason why Jay went up into the mountains, was connected with drugs. But maybe on the promise of more drugs. I had that sort of theory right at the beginning. You know, Ayub was supposed to be going home the next day. Maybe he had some left that he was going to give Jay at a bargain price, or I don't know. Again, I don't know. I'm just, you know, think it's just something that struck me at the time. Why would he go there? Maybe on the promise of being gay. Or, you know, do you imagine if he was going home the next day and he did have some stuff left? He can't take that on a plane with him. So what's he going to do with it? I don't know. He might have even said to Joe, you sell this for me, you can have a cut. You know, this is pure speculation. So I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just trying to find a reason why Jay went there. But of course, another reason might be that there is no reason. Just like they're all just having a good time, so spaced out on this, that, and the other. They didn't even think, you know, you won't be able to find a rationale. I think that's a possibility as well. There is no rationale because you're trying to find a rationale when you're just sat there stone cold sober, thinking, oh, why would you do that? But you don't know what you would do in that situation. So, where are we now? Right. So this is, I think, the last questions from the coroner for Lucy, and then afterwards the barrister's going to ask, Lois is going to ask questions. So the coroner says, did you get any sense from Jay at the time something bad had happened? And she said, no, I feel like if there was any conflict or something bad had happened, he would have said. And in terms of the text you said about going back, what was the point of that? And she said it was June in Tenerife. As soon as it hits 10 a.m., it gets very hot. It does. So I thought if he needed a drink, he needs to go back there to get a drink and charge his phone. Otherwise, he's in more of a predicament than he was there and then. I think Jay tried to go back, but he couldn't find his way back. The last time you saw Jay's around 3 a.m. Have you been to parties with him before these ones? Yes. It appears Jay has had alcohol to drink. He's told a couple of people he's taken cocaine and ecstasy. In terms of how he forms judgments, what effect does it have on his ability to form sensible judgments? And Lucy says it's going to make anyone make decisions you wouldn't. I definitely say he was in the frame of mind where he was going to make decisions he wouldn't if he'd slept properly and was hydrated. Yeah, because dehydration makes you not think straight as well. Just, so apart on top of all the drugs he'd taken and the alcohol he'd drank, he was dehydrated. And that makes you practically hallucinate. I don't think people realise how serious it is to drink water so often when it's hot. Whether even here in the house, I have to constantly be drinking something. Water, right? I like Ribena because I'm not a lover of water, so I like to put a bit of blackcurrant in it or something. But anything, to be honest, tea, coffee, whatever, some liquids, constant liquids, and I'm not even out the house. I just hide in the house in the summer. So Jay was dehydrated, and that makes you very disorientated on top of all the drugs he'd been taking. It appears Jay has had alcohol to drink. He's told a couple of people he's taken cocaine and ecstasy. And in terms of how he forms judgments, what effect does it have on his ability to form sensible judgments? And then the coroner says, is there anything you think I should have asked that I haven't? And she says, no, I don't think so. Yeah. Cocaine, ecstasy, ketamine, alcohol, no food. He would have been a bit of a mess, wouldn't he, really? You've got to acknowledge that. He will have been in a mess. No water, dehydrated. So let's see what Mr. Norris asks. So did you know Ayub and Rocky before the holiday? And she says, no. Both yours and Bradley's evidence is you were getting food and then you and Brandon got into a taxi. You explained Jay was near some steps. Could you see him at the point you left? Yes, I saw him while I was waiting for my food. When you leave, can you see him? Yes. In terms of Ayub and Rocky, had you seen them that evening? Not that I'm aware of. Now, they don't really go into what maybe Lucy had taken. What had Lucy taken? What had she drank? Had she been having them balloons or whatever and this, that and the other? Anyway, so she says, not that I'm aware of. Ayub said earlier he didn't go into the festival and I didn't go anywhere but there. And I think that's true about Ayub not going into the festival. That's one thing that's been said from day one, hasn't it? Everybody has said that's one thing that has been substantiated. Ayub didn't go to the festival. In terms of the watch, did you receive the Snapchat from Jay with the watch in it? No. Did you know anything about this watch? No. Didn't she say earlier? Did Jay mention a watch at any point? No, he never mentioned a watch to me. After Jay went missing, what did you hear about the watch then? I heard a lot of different things, that someone had stolen a watch, though it was fake. There were different theories being thrown around everywhere. Had you spoken to anyone around the watch? The word over in Tenerife was a watch had been stolen. It was one of those you didn't know what to believe. God, it's got so lost in... because She said earlier, so he said, did you know something about a watch? Where's that gone? Look, did you know anything about a watch at that time? Yes. Did you know anything about a watch at that time? Yes. Well, she said that earlier, and now she's saying he didn't say anything to her about a watch. He never mentioned a watch to me. Oh, God. Hey, so that concludes Lucy Law's evidence. Yeah, that is weird, because she said she knew about the watch, and now she's saying she didn't know anything about it. But he's not picking up on that. Well, surely he should have picked up on that, or she, sorry, Lois, and said, well, didn't you earlier say you knew about the